I will need a male volunteer, and I will need a female volunteer. If I could have a male volunteer and a female volunteer, just come right up. Those categories are pretty easy to solve.
Come on, Renita.
Close. All right. So, if you can sit on the table for me, I'd appreciate it. You just sit right there. Thank you. All right, please describe for the class what you see. What is it that you see?
I see.
Yeah, what you see.
I see a lot of intelligent people.
Okay. You see a lot of interesting looking people.
I said intelligent.
Oh, intelligent here. Can you be a bit more descriptive of these intelligent people?
Be more descriptive about the intelligent people.
Be more descriptive.
Okay, let's go down to other stuff.
No, just describe what you see.
I see people from different field of with the profession, like different professional fields.
Yeah.
Some are in accounting, some are in IT and nursing, and also a variety of fields, different work setup.
Okay. Physically describe what you see.
Physically,
Yeah. Describe what you see.
there's I don't know, age-wise or different.
Whatever,
age.
just whatever.
And I see people.
How many blue shirts do you see?
Oh, okay. I see 4.
See 4 blue shirts.
Really from light to dark. Yeah.
Okay, from light to dark. Glasses, how many glasses do you see?
4.
4 glasses. Cool. What do you see out the window?
Couple of homes from here and 3.
Yeah, so there's a tree.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, some homes. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Stay right there, you just slide on that table. If you could. Could you please have a seat
Under the table.
under the table?
Totally under?
As much as you feel comfortable.
All right.
I don't want to make you feel uncomfortable. Okay, because I don't want you to hurt your back or anything like that, but as much under as you can. I don't want you to hurt yourself, but you can just under. So, can you tell me what you see? What is it that you see?
Well, I see feet.
You see? Can you describe some of those feet?
Well, I see, tennis shoes and white socks and blue socks.
Okay, so you see
Bare
tennis
feet.
shoes, bare feet, and some people have their toes done.
Yeah, and bags.
And bags. Okay. Can you tell me what you see out the window?
Tops of trees.
Tops of trees
Rain.
and rain.
Sure,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Cool.
Bottoms of chairs.
Bottoms of chairs. Okay. Cool. Anything else you want to tell us about that you see?
Carpet.
Carpet.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah.
I lost my daughter between.
All right. Anything else? All right, great. Thank you so much. You guys can have a seat. Yeah, give him a hand. Give him a hand.
Is that me?
Yes.
There's your tie, see?
Tie.
That's a tie. All right. What was the difference between the two experiences?
Height.
Height? What do you mean height? When you
Well,
say
one was
height.
up on top of the table, one was under the table.
So he was on top of the table, she was under the table, okay? When he was on the table, what could he see? What were the things he mentioned seeing?
You can see houses out the window.
He could see houses. What else?
Faces.
People's faces.
People's faces, clothing. Okay.
You got a bigger picture.
He had a bigger picture, the big picture, right? What were some of the things that she mentioned seeing?
Correct.
Carpet,
Rain.
right?
Chairs.
Chairs,
Bags.
shoes, feet,
Bag.
right? Were they in the same space?
Yeah.
Yes, they were in the same space. Were they having the same experience? No. What was it that was determining their experience?
Their perspective.
Their perspective. So their perspective determined their experience.
And their location. Their location,
And what determined their location?
You.
I didn't determine their location.
Sure you did. You told her to get her at the couch.
No, I didn't.
Get her at the chair.
I didn't determine her location. I didn't determine his location. What determined their location?
Their gender.
Their gender?
They
They
determined their
volunteered.
location.
They volunteered.
They volunteered.
This is funny because I do this all the time. I've done this a few times and people always miss it every time.
The table.
The table. The table determined their position, right? Now, I will tell you that it was partly on purpose, but not really on purpose that I selected a male and a female. I just wanted to have that extra piece for you to have a conversation about, right? I could have equally done it the other way. So that wasn't a real piece of it, but I wanted you to start thinking in a certain kind of way. And so when we have this relationship, oftentimes what we try to do is we try to say to the people on the bottom, come up here. Come be on top with us. Be like the mainstream. Or sometimes we'll get people who feel guilty about this whole situation, and they'll try to lower themselves down here and say, well, let's be, I'm going to give up this so that so I can be with everyone else, so I can be with the common person. The people do that, right? They say, I'm going to be self-abasing, and I'm going to take a vow of poverty so I can be with those people, right? Whether we do that, or sometimes what we try to do is we try to say, you know what, let's stand hand in hand next to the table. Let's not even deal with that. But what is the problem even in that? So whether I'm on top of the table, or I'm under the table, or I'm trying to bring people on top of the table, or I'm trying to get under the table, or I'm trying to stand next to the table, what is the core problem with that relationship?
You're always trying to go somewhere else.
I'm always trying to go somewhere else in relationship to what?
The table.
The table. So when we talk about diversity stuff, and we talk about cultural competence stuff, part of our problem is that we're always trying to relate what we're doing to the table. What might we call this table that sets up this dynamic that allows people access to resources, access to seeing a large, big picture, and limits people's ability to see a big picture? What might we call that table?
Education.
We might call it education. What else might we call it?
Economics.
Money.
Money, yeah.
We might call it money, economics. What else might we call it?
It's a division.
It's a division. What might we call it?
Power.
We might call it stereotypes. We might call it power. What else might we call it?
Segregation.
We might call it segregation. What might we call it? What's that?
Culture.
We might call it culture. What else might we call it?
Bad names.
Band-aids. We might.
names.
Oh, bad names. I'm sorry. I'm getting older and I can't hear so well. What else might we call it?
Status.
Status. What else might we call it?
Discrimination.
Discrimination. What are the forms of discrimination?
Age.
Age discrimination. We might call it age discrimination. We might call it what?
Gender.
Gender. What else do we call gender discrimination?
Sexual.
Sexism. Right? What else might we call it? Racial discrimination or racism. Right? So if we're constantly relating to the table, it becomes difficult to do anything because in any combination that we do this, the predominant paradigm is what? The table. So if we want to change how we see the world, change who we are, we want to relate to people better, we have to remove the table. Otherwise, we're just shuffling stuff around, right? So there's that. I want to talk a little bit about culture and cultural competence. So this is, I don't know if you've seen this movie, most of you probably have. The Titanic, have you seen that? Right? So this is the Titanic, and then this is Leonardo DiCaprio in the front. I'm king of the world! You know, all that kind of stuff, right? So what was it that did the Titanic in?
Iceberg.
It was the iceberg, right? But what made the iceberg so dangerous?
The underneath the water.
Right? So they could see the iceberg, but what they couldn't see was under the water. All right? So you may want to take out a pencil or paper for this particular piece. So what we have is the iceberg of culture, if you will. All right? And there are the pieces that you can see and things that you can't see. And the things that you can see, we will call artifacts of a culture. Right? So what are some things that you can see about a culture?
Right.
What's that?
Can or cannot? Is it can?
That you can see about a culture.
The dress.
Okay? So how they dress. What else?
Habits.
Their habits? Give me a specific one.
I don't know. Going to temple every Friday, you know, and praying.
So I will I'll put this as habits, and in that particular context that you're talking about is kind of faith habits, right? So they're religious practices, right? Something else you can see about a culture.
Is it a language?
Yeah, language. Even if you can't read Chinese, you know what it looks like, right? In comparison to English, for example, right? What else?
Their food.
Food.
Housing.
Housing. And not just where, but the style in which people decorate their homes and how they do that. What else?
Traditions,
Like what? Give me an example.
like baptisms or, I don't know.
Okay, so we're back to that
Religious
religious
or
stuff.
Family.
Festivals, their festivals.
Yeah,
Okay.
Customs.
So customs, family roles. I'm going to put music, dance, art. These are all things that you can see about a culture, right? And so that's such a small part of the overall iceberg. And to be quite honest, these things mean nothing if you're not able to get to this part of the iceberg. All right? And so these things are the fruit of the greater values of a culture. So what are some of the things that are the greater values of a culture that you might not be able to see unless you're in that culture?